Hello, and welcome to Digital Decode with Qhala. My name is Laura Walubengo, and I'm your host for this podcast, where we'll be diving into anything that has to do with technology in Africa. And the aim of this podcast is for us to be able to decode anything that's happening digitally on the continent. As you know, the future of this continent is steeped in technology, and so you better be listening. What we're trying to do here is make sure that you're enlightened and inspired. Welcome once again to yet another episode of Digital Decode with Qhala. Today we have a special guest with us, and he will be delving into AI and how prepared Kenya and Africa are when it comes to AI and when it comes to African and Kenyan youth. I'm talking to none other than Joshua Baru from Qhala. I think he pronounces his name differently, but he'll tell you about that later. And this is a special, it's a special series that we're doing with Innovate Kenya Tech Summit. And so let me get to it. Hello, Joshua.
Hi.
How are you?
I am well.
Please introduce yourself.
Joshua Faru is my name. No.
It's Faru with a B. So I mean, okay, just go ahead.
You know where I come from? B is pronounced as F. You may have heard people saying I'm going to Nairobi, not Nairobi.
That's what people say at your home. As they say something they say Nairobi.
Mwachamila mtumwa. Yeah, but Baru is my name as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so what do you do at Qhala?
I'm a researcher. I'm an AI researcher.
You're an AI researcher.
Yes.
So what exactly does that mean? What do you research when it comes to AI?
So within AI talent, there are three major categories of AI talent. One is the trainers, the guys who actually build the AI models. Another one is the explainer, which I fall under. So these are the guys who bridge between the technologists and the market, people who explain what AI is all about, because other guys may not understand what AI is. So an explainer understands. And then finally, there is a sustainer. Sustainer is the people who push for ethical AI, who push for good governance. So specifically, I am an explainer of AI.
Okay.
I bridge between the technologies, those guys who build AI, and the market. I try to make it as palatable as possible.
So how does research help you with that? Is it because you have a unique understanding of AI, or you can translate the tech into English?
It's because I'm an economist.
Okay.
And I look at how AI can impact the market, how it can increase our GDP, and how it can really bring food on the table. Ultimately, at the end of the day, is what can AI do? Because the basic definition of technology is application of scientific knowledge to solve practical human problems. So there's a scientific knowledge on one part, application of that scientific knowledge to solve practical human problems. So that's exactly what I research on. How can this scientific knowledge over here, which is called AI, how can it solve our pressing problems? And for Africa, that's very direct. More than a third of Africa's population are poor. Literally, they live below $1 per day. That's a big problem. So we are looking at how AI can actually increase our growth as a continent.
Okay. So let me pose that question to you. Exactly. How can AI put money on my table? I'm not youth.
Yeah.
I probably don't qualify to be in the index.
Yeah.
Although I'm youth according to Kenyan standards, if I'm not wrong. But how can AI today put money on my table?
Well, first of all, there was a projection that was done that showed that $15.7 trillion are going to be generated because of AI. That's globally. In Africa, it's between 1.2 trillion to 1.5 trillion. So 1.2 trillion to 1.5 trillion. So currently, the whole GDP of Africa is 3 trillion. So that's half of our GDP that is going to be injected into our market because of AI. And basically how it's going to solve our problems, to answer your question, is through the use cases, because AI is solving problems that we have. A use case is basically how an AI is applied to a day-to-day function. For example, the way you see ChatGPT, though it's solving your answers, that's a problem that it is solving. So that's how it's going to solve our problems. So the the different ways that AI can be applied, whether it's in agriculture. For example, there are guys who are building an AI to look into how maize can be, we can mitigate climate using AI. Others are looking into forestry. There are guys who developed an AI application which sends, whenever guys go for illegal logging in our game parks, a text is sent to the rangers, and they can respond in real time. So you see, there's a lot of money that has been saved through that. So there are very many ways that AI can solve, because there are very many different places that AI can be applied.
So all of these examples you're giving me are actually local Kenyan examples.
Yes, they are local Kenyan examples
of things that are actually in place.
Yes.
And being used.
Yes.
And saving money. And I mean, if AI came the other day, as we assume, when were all of these things put together?
Well, AI came actually from 1956. It has been there as a concept. The guy who actually coined it was a professor in the US in 1956, and then it has gone through different iterations. The reason why we know it as we know it right now is because of two things. One is because of data. Massive amounts of data in the last few years have been available, which are open source. And secondly, it was because of ChatGPT, which open sourced its AI. Otherwise, people have been using AI. Actually, before ChatGPT, guys, Kenyan students used to write, the way Kenyan students write for American students, their assignments. They used to write using AI, but you have to buy that AI. The reason why we are talking about AI, because the way it became homestay, a name that everybody knows, is because of the open source of ChatGPT, and secondly, because of data, huge amounts of data, which you can go online and use to build your own AI.
So let me ask you, if ChatGPT just came the other day and we had those students already employing, I guess, AI technology to help other students in different countries, what are some of the AI that they were purchasing, that they were using, if you know? The names?
No.
Okay. I won't put you on the spot. But anyway. Okay, so if we were already ready as Kenyan youth to employ AI technology way before ChatGPT came up, what would you say about our readiness now when it comes to talent and the digital economy?
Well, zooming out to Africa, there are about 10,000 AI professionals who are actually good at developing and deploying AI technologies. Just 10,000, which is way below the global average. In Kenya, we have very few numbers. That's why we are doing an AI talent readiness index to map out the talent that is there in Kenya, and indeed in all of Africa. So we are doing it in all the 54 countries to map out what are the different digital skills that are there, what are the supportive digital infrastructure that is propping the talent that is already there to pick up AI and talent skills. What are the government policies that are supporting AI development? So in Kenya, we the national AI strategy that was released says that we are not where we should be. It actually says that less than 25% of guys who graduate, less than 25% of graduates graduate with STEM courses. So very few people graduate with STEM courses. That's less than 25% in Kenya. And we need these STEM courses because for you to develop, we need a skilled workforce to develop and deploy this AI talent. So just looking at it from the software engineers, we are not where we should be, but that's where we are mapping the talent that is in Kenya and indeed in all of Africa in those three major buckets. The trainers, the guys who actually design the AI, to explain as the guy who explained AI and make it to be layman, because ultimately it needs to be digested by the common man, and the sustainers, because we don't want this AI to come and control us. So we need to put a lot of boundaries around it.
Okay. So as an explainer, before we even talk about the different skills, I guess, because you've touched on it when you're looking at the numbers of the students who are taking STEM courses. But what other factors of readiness are you looking at apart from the courses? And if you've broadened it out to the different policies from the different governments, what factors are you looking at there?
Yeah, so we are looking at it under three major pillars. The AI Talent Readiness Index is under three major pillars. So the first one is digital skills. So we are looking at how many schools actually teach computer, because AI is an emerging technology and it's a technology of the internet. So as a foundation, how many high schools are teaching computer, how many universities are teaching computer science, and even going in depth, how many universities are teaching machine learning. Yes. So that's on digital skills. We're also looking at infrastructure, because we know digital infrastructure is key. We're looking at compute. How many data centers are there in a given country? Is there 5G technology in that country? What's the internet penetration? What's the mobile penetration in that country? For example, in Kenya, we have 42% internet penetration. We have more than 100% mobile penetration in Kenya. We're actually one of the leading globally. I think we are about 116% mobile penetration as of last year. So all those predisposing factors, and of course governance, because governance has to government has to give the incentive for talents to be there in the first place. As I had shared, we have less than 10,000 AI talent in Africa. So if there is no incentive for these talents to actually build AI, they will flee to other markets, as we have seen. Our top tier talent is actually taken by the global north companies, and so we have to introduce the element of patriotism as well. That's one of the things we do. We are a very Pan-African company, so we push for our own data sovereignty and for our own talent to build our own solutions. So we are looking at all that. That's why we are working with the Ministry of Digital Economy to make sure that the governance is at play with the industry, so that there be that link between government, industry, and academia, so that the talent that is developed by academia is actually taken up by the industry, and the government is building the correct structures around it. Because ultimately, what we want from the government is not big things. We want for it to provide the incentive, meaning that somebody can work here without feeling that the government is after me. There's a way that there's a guy who has written a book called Why Nations Fail, and they write about the extractive economic structures that are there, and the guy argued that if there is bad governance, economy is not going to grow. So we just want that inclusive governance, so that our talent may grow.
Okay. So one of the I guess the pillars that you're looking at when it comes to education, you mentioned how many schools, I guess high schools, or elementary schools, are looking at offer computers as a course. So when you say this, are you, because I remember I had to do computers separately from school, and that just included video games and Microsoft Excel and that kind of thing. When you say computer, is that what you're looking at?
Yes.
Just basic usage.
I am looking at the guys who did computer in high school actually did an exam. For example, in Kenya, the KCSE, that's one element. And also another element of digital skills is the one that you have just mentioned. After high school, did you do computer, called computer applications? For you just to be familiar with a computer, for you to be computer savvy, because ultimately, even if you're not building the AI, you're still going to be using the AI. So how many people after a certain AI has been developed can actually use that AI? Can you actually download an application, very basic, and do a prompt? There's a whole field called prompt engineering, where guys are actually taught how to create a good prompt so that the AI may give you a good answer. So how familiar are you, how tech savvy are you?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, when you talk about governments incentivizing to make sure that as a technologist, you're able to actually create applications using this whichever AI model. In different countries in the global north, more developed countries, does the incentive come from government, or does the incentive come from, I guess, large corporate organizations?
I would say in the East, it comes mostly from the government.
Okay.
In the West, it comes from the corporations. We saw OpenAI releasing a document called Where We Stand, talking about how they want OpenAI and the US government to relate. We even saw after Trump coming into power, Mark Zuckerberg going to see him, and Meta is one of the biggest AI developers in the world, and them coming into some sort of an arrangement. We saw in China, a lot of AI models are actually in cahoot with the Communist Party. So it depends
There's
on
a
the
new one. It's
region.
called
Yes, DeepSeek.
DeepSeek.
Yes,
Yeah.
DeepSeek is actually a very good one, because you remember OpenAI has a tool which they are charging $200 for you to use, because it has very high reasoning capabilities. DeepSeek actually developed another model which is free. They open sourced it, so you don't have to use the $200 OpenAI model when you can use DeepSeek. However, there are guys who did an experiment on DeepSeek, and they saw that when they were asking it questions that the Communist Party found derogative, or they did not like, it was not answering. So yes, so the whole government issue is there. Is that we cannot divorce ourselves from geopolitics when it comes to AI, because they are the ones who give the incentive. Because, for example, China is one of the biggest users of AI, and most of the use cases that are there in AI are in controlling the masses, maybe in those cameras that are everywhere. In Chinese cities, whenever you cannot walk without being seen by the government. There are cameras all over following you. So government is one of the biggest user of AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most interesting things I encountered when I went to China was you get a warning when you're on the metro, on the train, that if you misbehave, you won't be able to use a train again for a while. So I'm like, how will they know if I misbehave?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think you say something very interesting there. So what's the policy? Because I read somewhere that DeepSeek cost maybe just under $6 billion to put together. But offering it for free, what's the gameplay?
No, it's the same gameplay that OpenAI had. For you to actually penetrate into the market, you have to get as many people using your AI as possible. So you open source it, you make it as open as many people who would love to use it, so that it may become a household name, as it slowly is becoming right now. So that's one policy. The reason why they developed it is so with such kind of amount, $6 million, is because the data sets are already there. There's a French company called Hugging Face, which open sources everything. Every data set that you can think of is there, and you just download it for free. Llama by Meta also, you can go in and download. So as long as you have the talent, as long as you have the guys who can actually train models, the data is there, the wherewithal to build an AI model is there. So that's what these guys did, and that's why everybody is using it right now.
Okay. And so that's what you want to do locally.
Yes, that's
you want to get the Kenyan version to be able to do that.
Yes.
And where are you going to get $6 billion to do it? I mean, it's possible, but I'm just wondering if you're looking at it in terms of scale, and you're looking at it in terms of numbers, funding. How exactly are you hoping to achieve this?
Yes. So last year we wrote a paper called The Four Horsemen, an African perspective to the governance and deployment of AI. So we looked at 4 different categories. Because Qhala is an ecosystem builder, we exist to propel the ecosystem of technology to actually leapfrog to the 4th industrial revolution. I use the word leapfrog because we were not there in the first, in the second, in the third, but we are saying we are going to leapfrog all those to become into the 4th. And we stand guided
It's
by...
possible.
It is possible. Yeah, we stand guided by the East Asian miracle. East Asian miracle, where in the 1960s, we had the same GDP, but in 30 years, they had actually embraced technology so much so that right now, Singapore is one of the biggest economies in the world. China also, you would remember China was really poor, but now it's well because of embracing the technology. So we believe that Africa too can do that. So what was your question again?
No, I was just asking about how will Qhala get there?
How will Qhala get
So
there?
you spoke about the paper being the first thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have the 4 horsemen. We have the 4 horsemen. So in these 4 horsemen, these are the 4 enablers to an ecosystem. One is the data and data systems, which you must use data. You must use data to build an AI. Without data, you don't have good AI. So we are working on ensuring that we have African data, Kenyan data, and also that's why we are working with universities here in Kenya to make sure that we have a repository for our data to actually be good data sets for them to be used by our AI guys. We're also working on compute, which is another pillar, data infrastructure. So you know that data centers, for you to build an AI that actually scales, you have to have data centers and you have to have supercomputers, and that's where a lot of money goes in. So we are doing something called distributed computing. Instead of having using compute infrastructure from the West that is very expensive, we use distributed computing. We distribute the compute so that guys may use cheaper computing. And we're also looking at the talent that we are doing, the index, mapping out the talent of Africa, so that we may see where are the gaps, and we may address those gaps. And finally, we're looking at the market, because without the market, without a viable market to actually fund this AI, and without you actually addressing an actual problem in the society, you are not going to be doing much. Technology is there to solve practical human problems. So that's why we are working with market. We are working with the government and with other industries to zero down on a problem and to seek for funding, so that we may build that AI using the talent and the data infrastructure and the data centers that we talked about.
Okay. So let me ask you, you said that the reason why DeepSeek cost as much as it did was because they had existing data and data sets.
Yes.
And the existing data and data sets that they had was because their government uses AI technology quite widely. So it's been able to generate all this data this time.
Yeah, it incentivizes
Yes,
for data sets to be developed in that country. Remember, China has a population of over 1 billion
I know,
people.
yeah.
So the data there is massive.
And I guess the age group matters in a population.
Yes, Africa is very young, actually.
It's very young, so that's a good thing for us.
It is a good thing, because remember they say that by the year 2030, 1 in 3 workers will be Africans. So that's a huge shift that we have to capitalize on. Remember also the current, according to the 2019 census, the median age in Kenya is 19. In Rwanda is 18. The median age in Africa is 21. So that's why they say that 1 in 3 Africans by 2030 will be 1 in 3 workers by 2030 globally will be African.
Will be African.
Yes.
So the question that I'm pointing to is this: if the existence of data and data sets was because of wide usage in China, But here in Africa and in Kenya, we we're in the process of collecting this data and these data sets. But we still have to convince our governments, we still have to convince, I guess, a number of corporates on actually using AI technology. So won't there be a tipping in the balance, or are you hoping that at some point everything just works together and gets onto a level playing field?
I know actually one of the recommendations that we make for AI talent is for corporations to actually adopt AI. You know the way you say digital transformation, where a company uses digital tools at its heart of operations. Not because we are in AI world, we are actually campaigning for an AI transformation, where a certain organization uses AI at its core. It uses it to see the world. It uses it in its operations. And this is not just generative AI where you are typing things, but it's all sorts of AI, so that even robotics, so that this talent that is developed may actually be onboarded, and so that the market may actually be incentivized, because ultimately it's all about the money. Without the dollar, we wouldn't be talking, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So that will incentivize the government and also the market to invest in data sets that can be used, and that can actually be outsourced, so that other guys that are being groomed may use the data sets.
Okay, so if we're looking at a global contribution, you said 15 trillion.
Yes,
15
by
trillion.
2030.
By 2030.
Yes.
Actually, that's the question I was going to ask. What timelines we're looking at?
Yes.
So in order for preparation's sake, you've spoken about the Four Horsemen paper. You've spoken about the Digital Readiness Index.
The AI talent.
AI. So the AI talent index, it exists.
I know it's something that we are now doing.
You're now doing
Yes.
it. When are you looking to publish that one?
April of this year.
April this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I wish I could ask you some of the findings. I'm just curious, because I know with the other index that you did the EA Youth Digital Readiness Index.
Yes.
Maybe tell us a little bit about that as we prepare for the AI index.
Actually, I would say that is the one that sparked this AI Talent Readiness Index. So we did a Youth Digital Readiness Index in 2023. We are assessing how is the level of preparedness of 10 Eastern African countries to the digital transformation that is there, and how can they actually adopt it, and what's the level of preparedness in adopting it. So we looked at the same. We were looking at digital skills. We were looking at infrastructure. We were looking at government incentives. We were looking at the level of penetration, mobile penetration. We were looking at internet penetration. We were looking at the same thing, how many students are actually learning computer, because digital skills are indispensable for digital transformation. So we did that, and we ranked the countries. The paper is there on Qhala website, and Kenya was number one, definitely.
Not because you're Kenyan.
Not because we are Kenyan. Not because. Yes, but it was because a lot of digital skills talent is concentrated in Kenya. So that's why it won, because it has scored very highly on digital skills. Yes, and also Rwanda is coming. This Connected Rwanda, which a program by the government. In terms of government readiness, Rwanda scored very highly, because the ministry is doing Connected Rwanda program, which is distributing smartphones to people who do not have smartphones, like in the remote areas. So smartphone penetration is growing, internet penetration is growing, and a lot of incentives. The government has incentivized technology in the country. Yes, and of course, as I said, without the government doing its job, technology is not going to be there. That's why you see countries like Somalia, like DRC, like South Sudan faring very poorly on the index, because if you do not have peace in a country, you're not even going to innovate. You're not going to use technology. Yes. So before we even start talking about technology use and adoption, we have to start with, is there peace? Is there good governance? Is there sanity in our politics, as PLO says?
So in terms of the connectivity you're speaking about with Rwanda, I guess we can equate that to the parameters you gave about having computers in school and then computer science in high school. So another point of access, I guess, for AI and AI technology and being able to just be digitally savvy is your phone.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. Actually, there are guys who actually develop AI models using their phone. Yes, so it's key.
How does somebody develop an AI model?
Well, as long as you have the tools, if you have Python or R, you can actually do your basic coding and you can do your training of an AI model. You know, the way, for example, there are some guys who train the self-driving cars. So you just tell an AI model, whenever you see a tree, you surround a tree and tell it this is a tree. So whenever it sees that, it stops. In a traffic jam, it stops. When it sees a person, it stops. So you can do all that using your phone. You can train it.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. But I guess it has to be, you have to develop something that will have a long life, because, and you can still keep iterating a model that you develop, right?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Maybe I know that Qhala is very synonymous with the term AI in Kenya and in Africa. Could you take me through maybe some projects that Qhala has been involved in developing AI that has managed to impact community?
Yeah, so there's one that was actually mentioned in the Kenya National AI Strategy draft paper, and that is Atunzi AI, which is Atunzi is a Zambian name meaning maternal. So it's a maternal health chatbot where guys can go and ask anything. It's a chatbot, the same way ChatGPT is a chatbot, and you ask it anything about maternal health care, and it's going to reply. The good thing with Atunzi, and that's the clincher, is that it has been contextualized to the African context, and specifically to the Kenyan context. So you can ask it in Kiswahili, and it will reply. You can ask it in Sheng, and it will understand, and it will even respond to you in Sheng. You can ask it in English, Swanglish, the blend of Kiswahili and English. And it will reply, because ultimately language is a key element of AI. Language, there's power play when it comes to language. So if we do not have our own language and our own way of expressions in the AI, it will come with a very westernized way of speaking and language, which may affect us, because decisions are made based on the output that you get from an AI. If you ask it, who should I employ? There was a study that was done, that was shown that in the US, HR guys would actually, when they use certain AI chatbots, they would only be given a certain category, a white older male. Those are the people that it pushes. So it's reflecting the biases and the prejudices that are there in the society already. So that's why we have to contextualize AI. That's why Atunzi has been contextualized to Africa, to Kenya. We are using our own language, our own data to train it, and our own medical officers, because ultimately it is not replacing a doctor. So it's actually referring guys to health centers for further diagnosis.
Okay. So that's one. Yes. But before even you tell me about any other model that you've worked on, I think one thing that I guess you've said that makes it very important to contextualize is, I think, after Google Maps, is when everybody in Kenya learned what a second exit is and a third exit is and a roundabout. Before, like, what is this person talking about? I know about the third exit, left, right. Even this thing of north, south.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows those things. So What other examples can you give me of, I guess, AI models that Qhala's worked on?
Yeah, the other ones is we are building. We have not yet deployed them,
Okay.
but there's one that we're working in the judiciary. Actually, the African, several countries in Africa where we are taking the case studies that are there, the actual constitution, and feeding into the AI, so that when a judge or when a lawyer ask it, what is the specific any question that demands a law application, that it's very specific. For example, if you say in Kenya, what are the laws on driving, it will actually give you the specific law and also the judgments that have been made prior. For example, it will say that in 2024, there was this judgment that was made, and then it was countered by another one. Then the Supreme Court settled it. So that's an interesting one, because it will empower the judiciary, and it will also empower with the common people, because when I type anything about the Constitution, it will be very specific on that, and it will also be tracking the bills that are there in parliament, the acts that have been passed, the presidential session in real time, so that it may give you a very up-to-date state on the law in the African countries that we are working with.
I mean, I think that's amazing, because even when you look at, if you watch movies or you look at these big cases that are happening in court, most of those lawyers have files and files and files, even truckloads of files that they go to a case with. So I think even that would be a good recipient for the work that you're doing. How long does it take, I guess, to create an AI model?
It depends on the level of data or the number of data that you have, but it's not that long. For example, Atunzi, I think, took around a month to develop, but it depends on also the complexity of the data and the back and forth, because it's a very agile process. Even right now, people are still feeding onto ChatGPT and still developing it and refining it further. So for it to be a very good process, there is no time that you can say that now I'm through. But for you to, as long as you have the concept in your mind for until deployment, it can take not such a long time. And to just contextualize why we need all this is because, as I shared, between 1.2 trillion to 1.5 trillion is the money that is going to be injected into the African market because of this AI. So we must build very good AI models that actually speak into problems that are in the society, so that those problems may in turn, once we solve them, they may in turn generate money, because you're actually solving a problem. And that's how you get money, by solving a problem.
That's interesting. Actually, you've answered the question I was going to ask next, because I was going to ask you, in your opinion, what are some of the models that we just need right now in Kenya?
There's a website called There's an AI for That.
It's a local website.
No, it's you can find it locally, yes, but it's an American one. So in that, there's an AI for that. You can just go and type anything that you want. So you can say, I'm looking for a maternal health chatbot, and it will direct you to one that has already been created. I'm looking for something that looks close to a Google map, or one that I'm looking for an AI model to develop PowerPoints. I'm looking for, if you're an architect. I
need to get that one.
Yeah. It has hundreds of models that are there. So if you want any model, you can just go. There's an AI for that, and then you type your specific query. It's also an AI in itself. So it will direct you to the AI models that have been developed, and you will get it. Of course, I will say the Atunzi is a good one that you would have. DeepSeek is another one because it has very high reasoning capabilities. Yes, those are good ones, and also those that solve our practical problems. For example, Netflix, uses AI. So and also Meta, they use AI. TikTok is one of the biggest users of AI because of the dopamine rush. Once you like something, it's going to bring that thing that you have liked, and it's going to be very specific to your likes. So all those are different applications of AI that are there.
Is it possible now to even talk about digital technology without talking about AI?
Once disruption has come, it has come. It's here. So I would say that in the near future, it will become the same way we talk about smartphones, the same way we talk about the internet. That for you to actually build business, you have to think about what's the role of AI in building this business and in conducting my affairs, not only even in the business, but also in your individual life. So I would say it's here and we must reap as much benefit as we can. Remember, we cannot stand as Africans and let this pass us by. We are very Pan-African, so we push for good use of AI so that it may propel us into the fourth industrial revolution.
So I have 3 questions before we wind up.
Mhm.
1, how would you define the fourth industrial revolution?
How would I define by looking at the first one? Yes, the first one was when in the 18th century, when a lot of factories were built, and there was steam engine, and a lot of factories using steam engines. So I would say that's the first one. And then there was the second one. What was the second one?
Is it coal?
Yes. There was the second one, and then there was the third one on electricity. The second one was on electricity. Sorry, the second one was on electricity. And then the third one is the .com era of the computer. Yes. And then now this fourth one is on emerging technologies that are there. There's the nanotechnology, there's the biotechnology, there's the Internet of Things, and then there's artificial intelligence. So these are the different technologies that were not there several decades back, or that were there in their research phase, not yet set out there in the market, but are now revolutionizing how we do things. So that's how we define the fourth industrial revolution.
Okay. Question 2. Now that we are preparing for the Innovate Kenya Tech Summit, from an AI perspective, what are you hoping maybe will be discussed? I mean, the summit will basically be looking at governments, be looking at corporations, be looking at individuals, and also investors. So if you look at that as your scope, what are you hoping AI wise will be discussed at the summit?
How to increase AI talent and how to support the AI talent that is already there. As we shared, is that there are less than 10,000 AI talent in Africa. So how can we improve our AI talent? Looking at the people who actually train AI. Remember, there was a YouTube documentary that was shown how global North companies are mistreating our AI modelers, how they are being paid peanuts, yet they are doing a lot of work. Some of them are very undignifying. For example, content moderating on social media. So I would love them to discuss talent, specifically from an ethics point of view, and what it looks like for an African to actually contribute, because we're living in a globalized world, and a lot of us are working for other companies in the global north. So how does that look like? How is the government going to protect us, the people who are working for these guys? Yes, and how also is the government going to help incentivize the market so that the market may actually develop our tools, as opposed to us fleeing to the US because they are, I would say, I would be paid better or something. Yeah.
Hopefully, there'll be a lot more African investors looking to invest in this particular
Oh,
thing.
yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so you you've mentioned AI, you've mentioned the global models that exist, the open ones, and you've also mentioned that Qhala is looking at how to do it from a Kenyan perspective, African perspective. If you look at ChatGPT, if you look at Claude, there's a way that, and this is my theory, please feel free to dispel it. There's a way that they sort of all speak the same language. Maybe DeepSeek is different because it has the Eastern influence on it. Is there a way that we can create something that is very specific to Africa that probably now, if you're a white middle-aged person in Wisconsin somewhere in the States, our AI will not be able to understand you?
It's all on the data. The data that we feed is the one that is going to determine the output that is going to be there. So if Cloud and ChatGPT and Gemini are speaking more or less the same languages, because the data that they have used is more or less the same because it has come from the same country. Secondly, also because of the layers of governance that have been put around it. For example, there are AI models. If you ask for sensitive topics, say terrorism, it will not give you an output. But there are other places where such a layer has not been put. So it's all on the data that you feed it, and as well as the governance layer that you put on the top, so that if you ask it a specific query, it will not answer. If I ask it a certain query, it will answer in this way or that way. So for us, I would say for us to build a model that those guys may not understand, maybe it will be in the language. For example, the way I said we are building a Sheng chatbot, that would be quite something. Yes, that's our English model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
first time I heard Swanglish was actually Tanzanian.
Mm,
Anyway, but thank you very much for that. I
mm,
think I am looking forward to learning more about the AI Talent Readiness Index.
mm.
Do you have a date in April, or just you just know it's going to be in April?
No, it's going to be the first week of
The
April.
first week of April.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And we should just watch out for that and
Yes,
see.
yes.
I guess even from a perspective of putting money on my table, it's something that I should look at.
Yes, yes,
I want to
yes.
know how to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because it's going to map out the talent of all the 54 countries.
Wow.
Looking at digital skills, looking at infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and looking at policy. So all those elements are going to come together, and we are going to weight them differently. Digital skills being given the highest weight, and then digital infrastructure, and then policy. And then we are going to send it out there, and then we are going to analyze the data, and then we are going to rank those countries. So we are going to have a major talent readiness index, and then we are going to have smaller indexes that are ranking countries based on their digital skills, based on their digital infrastructure, and based on their governance, their policy readiness. Yes.
I think the most exciting thing for me is look at the excitement on your face when you're talking about that. So thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the knowledge, and I hope that you'll be watching out to see how you can consume the information that is on this AI Talent Readiness Index Africa wide. But please make sure you tune in. You listen to all Digital Decodes with Qhala, because we are trying to just unpack tech in Africa and make it as impactful as possible in your life. Thanks for watching.